The Stone Zone, with legendary Republican strategist and political icon and pundit Roger Stone. Stone has served as a senior campaign aide to 3 Republican presidents. He is a New York Times best-selling author and a longtime friend and advisor of President Donald Trump. As an outspoken libertarian, Stone has appeared on thousands of broadcasts, spoken at countless venues, and lectured before the prestigious Oxford Political Union and the Cambridge Union Society. Due to his 4+ decades in the political and cultural arena, Stone has become a pop culture icon. And now, here's your host, Roger Stone.
Welcome, I'm Roger Stone, and yes, you are back in the Stone Zone. This morning, the impresario behind the massively successful Reawaken America tour, Clay Clark, joins us. But to help talk with Clay and talk about his worldview and the upcoming event by Reawaken America tour is my regular co-host, Troy Smith of Slingshot.News. Troy, welcome back into the Stone Zone.
Roger, as always, it's an honor.
We have a really great guest today. Clay Clark is perhaps one of the greatest organizers in the conservative movement. He is indefatigable. He is a great Christian. He's a great cheerleader. He's a great organizer. I've been honored to be on the Reawaken America tour. Clay has taken enormous vilification and public criticism for his patriotism, but he is truly a great American, and he joins us now in the Stone Zone.
Right, Roger, I really do appreciate you carving out time for me. Thank you guys both for allowing me to be here with you.
Clay, we're really honored to have you. I've been in politics, as you know, for 45 years. But I've never experienced anything like the Reawaken America tour. Every one of these events has been life-changing, I think, for a number of people, largely because it isn't the same old political hacks. Many times it's people who have never been involved before, people who are now coming to the aid of their country, coming to these amazing events to get educated, to meet leaders, to get information. My hat is off to you. You do this, I know, at great cost to yourself. This idea that Clay Clark's making a fortune. No, Clay Clark's losing money. Clay Clark is doing this for his country. It's a mammoth undertaking to put these conferences together, and my hat is off to you. Tell us what this has been like from the beginning.
Well, Roger, it's very interesting because if you would have told me 5 years ago that I would be hosting a Reawaken America tour event, that would have not been a thought that I would have had. However, what happened is we had this thing called the lockdowns, COVID-19, and I'll go 90 miles an hour. But essentially, I had a business podcast called The Thrive Time Show, and I still have the podcast. But we were number 1 on iTunes 6 separate times. So we would interview, Wolfgang Puck and John Maxwell and random, successful NBA players like David Robinson or Hall of Fame football players, basketball players, basically super successful people. And one by one, the listeners began asking me an avalanche of questions such as, how am I going to grow my business if my business is forced to be closed? And so when you go to thrivetimeshow.com and you look at my client roster, I am an incubator or a business consultant or coach for 160 business owners at thrivetimeshow.com. And that's what I do. That's my focus there. And so I began to look into that. Well, what are my clients going to do if they're forced to have a lockdown? This is all pre-lockdown. And what I found very quickly is that the models that said 2.2 million people would die from COVID, they were false. The polymerase chain reaction tests could be falsely calibrated to inflate the number of positive cases. COVID was, in fact, treatable with hydroxychloroquine because it was listed on the NIH website before the lockdowns. I found that the system and method for testing for COVID-19 was patented in 2015, and I found these 2 characters, Yuval Noah Harari and Klaus Schwab, were talking about this thing called transhumanism, or the 4th Industrial Revolution, or if you've read the book of Daniel, you might call that the fourth kingdom, where they try to mix the miry clay with the iron. And I thought to myself, well, wow, it seems as though President Trump might not be aware that Fauci and the Scarf Queen, Deborah Birx, are nefarious actors that are putting forth an agenda called the Great Reset. So I decided to sue the mayor of Tulsa, turn my building into a church, and that's where it started. And at one of those events, I met your great friend, Roger, General Flynn, because every single Thursday night I was hosting a town hall in protest of the lockdowns, quarantines, and curfews. And at one point, at one event, we had over 1,000 people in attendance at my office at the Riverwalk in Tulsa. And one of those attendees was America's General Flynn. And at that point, we really connected for a lot of the reasons, Roger Stone, that you love him as well. And General Flynn looked me in the eye. I'll never forget it. He said, Clay, you are a true believer. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, you're willing to die for your faith in your country, aren't you? And I said, absolutely. And he said, that's very, very rare. We should stay in touch. He gave me a cell phone number, and I called him up and I said, General Flynn, I don't want you to feel like that I'm putting this on you, but I said, I feel called by God to do an event where we share the truth about election fraud, medical fraud, religious fraud, and we get people back to God, but there can be no corporate sponsors that censor the message, and we need to let people name their price so that everybody can afford to do it. And I'll pay for the losses, I'll pay for the costs, and then you just show up and bring your patriotic friends with you. And with less than like 2 seconds of hesitation, immediately he says to me, I know, and it has to happen now. Let's go. And so we did that. And then since that time, Roger, I've got a chance to become friends of yours and Eric Trump. And so now we're headed into our 24th event in Detroit, Michigan, the final confirmed event we have. And as of right now, I'm looking at my ticker here. We have 917 tickets left for the Detroit Reawaken America tour. And the reason why we're going to Detroit is that Eric Trump and General Flynn feel like we need to go there. So again, if you want to join us June 7th and 8th, folks, just go to timetofreeamerica.com. timetofreeamerica.com. 70 speakers over 2 days. You can name your price, which means that you can actually choose the price that works for your family's budget. And then my wife and I'll eat the difference. And that's why there's no corporate sponsors, because there is no censorship. So Roger, you know this. I never tell you what to say. I never tell you what not to say. And so I'm slightly terrified every time we do an event because I have no idea what the speakers are going to say. But I do know that the speakers that we have on stage want to share the truth, and they want to save this wonderful republic.
Folks, this is a really unique opportunity. I mean, the lineup for Detroit, Michigan, we're talking General Michael Flynn, Kash Patel, Amanda Grace, Eric Trump. You can't, this is unlike anything you've ever seen. It's one part revival, one part political rally, one part educational seminar. People come away from these conferences energized and determined, blessed, and of course, we take a huge amount of guff for it. They keep saying, Clay, that we are Christian nationalists, like it's an insult. Well, let's see. I'm a Christian, meaning I believe in the birth, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. I believe in the Holy Spirit. I believe in God. Yes, so I'm a Christian, and I'm a nationalist. Yes, I love my country, and I feel like it was founded on Christian values. It's right there in the founding documents. So they think they're insulting us with this. And the worst, of course, are these liberal pastors who think that they have the monopoly on God's word and that they're just right about everything. How do you deal with that?
Well, first off, this guy here, this is Yuval Noah Harari, and I want people to hear what he said on March 11th. Listen to this, folks.
Is it possible to build a global order which is based on shared experiences and values in cooperation? This is the kind of the good side of having an existential threat, that if people realize the danger we are facing, then these are the Martians.
This guy's actually talking about building a new world order. Yuval Noah Harari is now calling for quote-unquote surveillance under the skin. He wants to rewrite the Bible using AI. I'm quoting him now. He describes our fellow humans as hackable animals. He wants to ban the eating of meat. He said COVID was the time when surveillance started going under the skin. Just in the past week, so for people out there that don't know this, Yuval Noah Harari appeared with Stephen Colbert. I mean, he's on the Late Show now. He's appearing on late night television. Again, he's becoming mainstream now. So you're seeing Yuval Noah Harari. He's praised by Obama, Zuckerberg, Gates, MIT, Stanford, Harvard, TED Talks, late night television. I mean, this guy is being celebrated. He's actually, so this is what I was told. I was just told this, or I just heard this. He was on MSNBC for 1 hour and 8 minutes, Roger Stone, 1 hour and 8 minutes. And during the interview, it's now been said that he has sold 45 million copies of his books. Roger Stone, could you imagine what it would be like if MSNBC would do a fawning interview of President Donald J. Trump for 1 hour and 8 minutes? I mean, the questions they asked Yuval Noah Harari during this 1 hour and 8 minute fawning interview, they asked him questions such as, and I'm not exaggerating, they said, Yuval Noah Harari, you are perched up in a situation now where many of the world's leaders come to you for advice. Tell us, what do you see the future holding? I mean, they're putting him up there as though he's a prophet. I mean, Roger, these same people that vilify you, that host from MSNBC by the name of Ari, A-R-I, this guy who absolutely every single night attacks you and President Donald J. Trump, he interviewed Yuval Noah Harari, who, by the way, in Hebrew, Yuval means father of music. Harari, think about this, folks. Yuval, father of music. Noah, as in the days of Noah. Harari means mountain dwellers. So the father of music, as in the days of Noah, shall ascend to the mountaintop. That's what his name means in Hebrew. This guy's openly gay. He rejects the God of his fathers. He's from Israel. This guy's given 1 hour and 8 minutes to share his antichrist agenda. So for anybody out there who hasn't read the Bible in a while, if you open up your Bible to Revelation chapter 16, verse 12 through 14, the Bible tells us very clearly that when the Euphrates River dries up, and it is, the false prophet will show up, and he is, and China and Russia will team up. China and Russia are teaming up financially and militarily, and they're leading the way with BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, all teaming up to de-dollarize. So I believe right now we are living through the times that the Bible prophesied, and I believe that you, Roger Stone, are a key point in the Kim Clement prophecies. I believe that President Donald J. Trump is a key moment, a key person, a key event in those Kim Clement prophecies. And I believe that everybody out there right now who's listening to the sound of my voice right now, I encourage you to go to timetofreeamerica.com and come join a bunch of people that are Christians, that do love this nation. And if you're out there being attacked by a fake pastor, many churches in America today have become sort of a poor man's version of a self-help seminar. Many churches in America today, people show up at a big church with a small Bible and the room is filled with fog and no one even reads the Bible. But if you're out there and you actually believe in the Bible, I encourage you to come out to these events. And again, 70 speakers over 2 days. Pastor Mark Burns, Pastor Phil Hotzenpiller, Pastor Bernadette Smith, General Flynn, Roger Stone, Kash Patel, Devin Nunes, Eric Trump, Laura Trump, the lineup, Jim Brewer, Roseanne. The lineup continues to grow. And most of the speakers, I'd say all of the speakers at this point, they all know me, Roger, and they've actually spent time. Some of our skeptical speakers go out into the audience and they ask people, hey, what did you pay for your ticket? Or they'll go ask vendors, what did you pay for the booth? And they'll find out that, guess what? The average person's paying $50, $60, whatever they can afford. And you know what? We don't apologize for it. We're trying to save our country and wake up America. And Roger Stone, you have been a massive part of the Reawaken America tour. And I thank you for taking the time at each and every event to actually go down into the audience. A lot of people don't know you do that. You actually go out into the audience, and I've seen you shake the hands of thousands of people. You say, how do I know you've shaken the hands of thousands of people? A, because I can see you with my own eyes, but B, in an audience of 5,000 people, it seems like virtually every single person gets to shake your hand. And Roger, I appreciate you being humble and accessible, despite the security concerns. We have great security, but I appreciate you taking the time to come down there and to greet all the attendees and treat every single person as though they are a person created by God. You are very humble. You're very committed, and you really do lead the way. You're an inspiration for many of the speakers, and I appreciate you doing that.
All right, Clay Clark, stay right there. Troy Smith, stay right there. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with Clay Clark, the impresario behind the Reawaken America tour.
The markets are getting crazy, and now is the time to protect yourself from economic turmoil. Silver is in the headlines right now and creating lots of excitement as the price of silver is extremely attractive compared to gold. A call to Swiss America gets you the scoop on whether the silver opportunity is for real. What you'll discover will really blow your mind. Today, silver faces a huge shortage due to the rising demand by military, solar, electric cars, and computers, all of which depend on silver. But right now, silver is priced to sell according to worldwide experts. Now, to help you get started, Swiss America is offering beautiful United States Walking Liberty half dollars, issued by the U.S. Mint from 1916 to 1947 and minted in 90% pure silver for a special introductory price. Limit of $250 per customer while supplies last. So call the number on your screen or visit SwissAmerica.com, because now is the time to rediscover silver.
Sounds rolling. All 3 cameras. We're good. Speed.
Is there any regrets that you have in life? I should sit here and say, yeah, I got a lot of regrets. But when I look back on my life and I understand the lives that were lost, I mean, I'm sitting here with you. And I can tell my story.
Former National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, pleaded guilty today to lying to the FBI.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
Really brilliant military career, serving 33 years. Why was he being so elusive?
Mike Flynn told the truth and faced life in prison.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone and my co-host Troy Smith, and we're talking to Clay Clark, who is the force, the spark plug behind the Reawaken America tour, and probably the #1 critic in the United States of the World Economic Forum. No one, literally no one in America, has done more to expose the globalist agenda by Klaus Schwab and his sidekick, Noah Harari, who is a strange little man. So, Troy, do you have a question for Clay?
Absolutely. Reawaken has seen so much success, and it's really in the face of a lot of other places not having so much success, where we see CPAC, besides Trump speaking there, where it's packed. I mean, there's really no one there. How have you kind of guided the Reawaken America tour against CPAC, and because you're winning that war, and I think it's evident for everybody out there that you guys have a lot more momentum and a lot more legitimacy.
Well, I'll tell you this, and Roger Stone has seen my desk, so Roger, you could probably verify this, but I have a standing desk right behind me, and every day I get to work. I know this sounds crazy. Every day I wake up at 3 a.m., and I make nonstop calls from about 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. You say, who am I calling? Well, we have behind me, there's a guy by the name of James. There's a young lady by the name of Devin, and there's a team of about 6 of us. And we're on the phone all day, every single day. And you say, who are you calling? We contact local groups, local businesses, local churches, local outreaches, nonstop all day. Then I do between 4 and 8 interviews a day where I'm on somebody's show. And then I also do between 4 and 8 interviews a day where I'm putting out my own shows. So between those, I try to average 8 interviews a day, 6 days a week, which is 48 interviews a week. And then we have a team of callers. And I know this sounds crazy, but each one of our callers makes an average of 300 phone calls a day, and we do track. So when you have 1,800 calls going out a day, and 8 interviews going out a day, that's the math that produces momentum. And what we found is most people will tell us, they'll say, if you guys hadn't have called my business, I would have no idea that you were doing the event. And you say, well, how's that possible? Well, through the mainstream media censorship, I can't advertise on Facebook. I can't buy most billboards. I can't do most mailers. I can't advertise on most TV or radio. And hit pieces are the only way that I tend to show up in local media. So that's how we do it. Now, as far as CPAC, what I have found, and I'm not criticizing CPAC, this is just something that I have found, is I found that a lot of wonderful people that love Roger Stone, as an example, I've met them in line because I try to get there at 5 a.m. each morning when we first open up the doors at 7. I try to be there 2 hours before to greet any of the early arrivals at 5 a.m. in the morning. General Flynn's there too. And I ask people, how did you hear about us? And most of these people have been following Roger Stone, let's say, or General Flynn for years, but they couldn't afford to go to a lot of the events, because a lot of the events that are organized, are $1,000 for a plated meal, or it's $20,000 for a media booth. I'm not making these numbers up. $10,000 for a vendor booth, $1,000 for a ticket. And so a lot of people just can't afford to go. And then if they can't afford to go, many of these events are organized by organizers who are trying to profiteer. I have nothing wrong with someone making money, but their goal is to make money. And so they'll bring on sponsors, and the sponsors will say, Troy, guys, I'm honored to sponsor you, but don't allow General Flynn to speak. And don't let anybody talk about the RNA modifying nanotechnology in the shots. Or, guys, I'm honored to have you speak, but don't allow this person to speak. And if they do, don't talk about the RNA modifying nanotechnology in the shots. Don't talk about Yuval Noah Harari. Don't talk about Klaus Schwab. Don't talk about the fact that Elon Musk owns most of the technology needed to implement the Great Reset. Specifically, Musk owns CureVac, the company that makes the mRNA modifying nanotechnology in the shots. He owns the self-driving cars being pushed by Klaus Schwab and Xi Jinping and Yuval Noah Harari. Elon Musk put the 30,000 low orbit satellites into space that blanket the Earth in 5G that connects to the RNA modifying nanotechnology in the shots. He wants to roll out universal basic income. So don't talk anything factual about Elon Musk or Yuval Noah Harari or Klaus Schwab, and don't let General Flynn speak, and don't let Alex Jones speak. And for all that is holy, don't speak about anything unless it's vague pro-America commentary. And so that's what happens a lot of times. And so our events, most of the speakers are shocked. I don't have a teleprompter, and I don't censor the speakers. And I can tell you, Troy, it is, people can sense the rawness of it. Jim Brewer said this to me, and Roseanne said it too. But Jim Brewer said, he said that in his entire career of doing comedy, the Reawaken tour crowds are his favorite crowds ever. And I asked him why. And he goes, because I get the feeling that the audience thinks that you're doing this to save America, and they know you're not making any money. And so there's an appreciation, and then there's an enthusiasm. And Jim said it feels like the energy of a college football game, but with the critical thinking of a George Carlin crowd back in the day, the late great comedian, or the critical thinking of a Dave Chappelle audience. And so it really is a live wire. People just love hearing from Roger Stone and others.
Yeah, it's an amazing experience. As I said earlier, Clay, you're bringing thousands of people into the process who've never attended, never really paid attention to politics in many cases, never really gone to an event like this. How many total people do you think have attended Reawaken America tour events since the beginning?
Well, I can tell you a hard fact here. Our average attendance is 4,100 people, and we've done 23 events. So if we take, now again, obviously there are some people that I recognize in the audience who've been to other events, but if you take 23 times 4,100, that's our average. Now we've had some events where we've had 8,000 and some events where we had 2,700. It has to do with the venue size, but conservatively, we've had 94,300 people in attendance, and our average streaming viewership between all of our streaming partners is over 2.1 million. So we'd have 94,300 in attendance. And then if you take the 2.1 million, right, we take that number, doing some math here, 2.1, doing podcast math here, and then we take that times the 23 events. So you're talking about, 48.3 million people that have probably streamed the events. But to your point, I mean, it's wild because most people who've come to these events said that they've never previously gone to political events. And that includes me. Roger, I was the entrepreneur of the year in 2007, whatever that means. It's where the Small Business Administration calls you and says you've been nominated. And I was the Chamber of Commerce entrepreneur of the year when I was 20 years old in the state of Oklahoma. And both times I found myself being greeted by a governor and or mayor that I did not vote for, that did not share my values. And they would get on stage and they would thank me for my contribution to the economy. And then I found them saying things that I disagreed with. And so when I was 27, Roger, true story, I got asked to speak at one of my award ceremonies. And I got up and I said, hey, everybody, I want to thank you for the award. I appreciate it. I want to be very clear that the mayor here, I disagree with everything you said earlier. I disagree with you. I said that on the podium. I disagree with everything you just said. And the key to entrepreneurship success is we have success in spite of you guys. But if you would just go away and get out of my way, I and the other entrepreneurs could have more success. But you guys are the antithesis of what it means to be an entrepreneur. You guys are in the way with your bureaucracy. You're slowing everybody down. You're creating roadblocks, and you're making it difficult for me to grow my companies. And I would encourage you, everybody here is listening today, not to listen to anything that was just spoken. And I did that, and I was shocked that the entrepreneurs said, we love this guy. And all the presenters and all the sponsors and all the politicians were so irritated. And I told my wife, I was 27 years old, I said, this will be the last time I go to a political event. I'm just done. And then I got dragged out of my political exile. And during the 2020 election, when President Trump was running for president of the United States, I got asked by the RNC to host their watch party. Now, Roger, that had been like 13 years since I had hosted a political event. And I thought, well, let's let it rip. So I got up on stage, and because everyone was wearing a mask, if you remember that, the mask mandates were common. So I got up on the stage and I said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the event. I don't know if you heard the news, but the mask mandates have been lifted and we don't have to wear a mask for tonight's event. And so Lankford, remember Lankford, Oklahoma's Lankford, this guy and the Governor Stitt, guess what they did? They walked into an audience where no one was wearing a mask, and they're going, because I kept saying it, Roger. I was the MC. So before the cameras went on, as people were gathering in this ballroom in Oklahoma City, I just kept announcing, folks, great news. The mandates have been lifted. Way to go, Oklahoma. Woo! And I just kept saying that. And so people perceived it as being true. And by the way, the mask mandates are totally unconstitutional. But I just kept stating it. And so all these politicians who always show up fashionably late, they all showed up with their entourages. They look around in an audience of 1,000 people, none of which are wearing a mask, and they all took their masks off. Well, then the media shows up knowing that the corporate media shows up knowing that the mask mandates are still in effect. And so the politicians put on their masks for the interviews and demanded that the camera filmed them with their back. The politicians demanded that there would be a wall behind them so that the cameras would not see an audience of mask-free people. And so I kept doing it all night. And finally, one of the RNC leaders came up to me from the state of Oklahoma, and she said, if it's okay, we'd like you to no longer MC. And I said, why can't I MC? She said, because everyone's not wearing a mask and it's a violation of the health. And so, but I mean, Roger, by the end of the night, they couldn't put a mask on anybody. It was free. And even though we had to watch the loss, we had a little bit of an experience of what it was like to have a almost libertarian, truly Ronald Reagan conservative experience there. And again, that was the last event I've emceed for the Republican Party. Probably the last one I get asked to do. But we made it mask-free at the watch party in Oklahoma. True story.
All right. We're just about out of time. Clay, tell people again where they can get tickets for the upcoming event in Detroit.
Well, I got two calls to action real quick here. If you go to givesendgo.com/Navarro, my good friend and yours, Peter Navarro, is going to be going to prison here in the next 7 days. So givesendgo.com/Navarro. And if you donate anything at all to Peter Navarro, donate anything at all, and you text me my number right here, you have a chance to win a backstage pass to the Reawaken America tour. If you donate anything at all to support my good friend Peter Navarro, who will be going to prison, that's givesendgo.com/Navarro. If you text proof of donation to my number, 918-851-0102, you're entered in for a chance to win a backstage pass. But if you want to request tickets, just text my cell phone number, 918-851-0102. Yes, that is my cell phone number, 918-851-0102. Or if you want to go to the website, that's timetofreeamerica.com, timetofreeamerica.com. And as of right now, the ticker shows me we have 908 tickets remaining for the Reawaken America Tour in Detroit, Michigan, June 7th and 8th.
All right, Clay Clark, the man behind the Reawaken America Tour, a great patriot, a great friend. Thank you so much for joining us today in the Stone Zone.
Thank you, guys.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break and then we'll be right back because, well, Liz Cheney and her lies are finally catching up with her. We'll be right back with that. Stand by.
Hi neighbor, Pat Boone here. Today, I want to help you find some peace of mind concerning your money. Like it or not, we're all living in a financial war zone. That's right. We're watching our hard-earned dollars get crushed by inflation. In fact, recently inflation reached its highest level in 40 years. And on top of that, cash, which has always represented freedom and privacy, is more and more being replaced by a cashless system. That's right. Powerful forces are definitely waging a war against cash. So I'm encouraging you to prepare before it's too late. Call or text the number on the screen for a free report, The Secret War on Cash from Swiss America. Discover how a few simple steps can protect your money as well as your privacy and your peace of mind. So call or text for your free report, The Secret War on Cash, and make sure to mention Pat Boone sent you.
God put glutathione in every one of our cells. We die without glutathione. If someone took all the glutathione out of your neighbor's body, they would be dead in 3 to 7 minutes. We need it to sustain life, and we start losing it, Brandon, at age 20. Our stores are just constantly being depleted. The only thing, my friends, the only thing that will kill, detox, and destroy all of the free radicals, cytotoxins, mold, heavy metals, pesticides, everything that I just mentioned, virus variants, vaccine variants, is God's molecule glutathione. It is a safe, natural detoxer. It will detox every free radical, chemical, heavy metal from your brain, your liver, your organs, and your cells in seconds every single day.
Dr. Lana checking in. Check it out, house1.numi.com.
We've learned through the pandemic we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down and doctors' offices were shut down. And even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
So welcome back. This is the Stone Zone. I'm here with my co-host, Troy Smith of slingshot.news. So Troy, yesterday, Congressman Loudermilk of the House Republicans released a report, and there were 2 important takeaways. First of all, it is absolutely clear that Liz Cheney actively worked to suppress the proof that President Donald Trump offered D.C. Mayor Bowser and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi 10,000 National Guard troops to guard the Capitol on January 6th. Tomorrow, right here on the Stone Zone, Kash Patel joins us. He was the acting staff director for the U.S. Department of Defense. He has the receipts proving that all of that is true. But then secondarily, Liz Cheney also promoted the false testimony of this woman, Cassidy Hutchinson. Now, Cassidy Hutchinson, who I've never met in my life, was an assistant to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Hutchinson claimed in her bombshell testimony that Donald Trump had tried to grab the steering wheel of the presidential vehicle. I think it was an SUV rather than a limousine, and got into a scuffle with his Secret Service detail because he was insisting on being taken to the Capitol. The January 6th committee, which MSNBC and Reuters laughingly say was a bipartisan committee. Yeah, there are 2 Republicans on there who hated Donald Trump's guts, claimed that suppressed that information. It's not the first lie that this woman, Cassidy Hutchison, told. She told a number of lies about me and General Michael Flynn. Let's take a look.
Is it your understanding that President Trump asked Mark Meadows to speak with Roger Stone and General Flynn on January 5th?
That's correct. That is my understanding.
And Ms. Hutchinson, is it your understanding that Mr. Meadows called Mr. Stone on the 5th?
I'm under the impression that Mr. Meadows did complete both a call to Mr. Stone.
Completed the call to Stone. So take this together. Stone is a convicted Trump advisor known for his dirty tricks. Stone was spending those same early January days in direct contact with now convicted seditionists, the Oath Keepers. There's footage of that. The Oath Keepers. There's footage of that on the day of January 6th. And Stone spent that post-election period with another convicted seditionist, Proud Boys leader Enrico Tarrio. You're looking at video of them together in mid-December 2020 in the lead-up to what became the later steps towards the January 6th activities. So, of all the possible things on then outgoing President Trump's mind on the eve of his last stand on January 6th, what was he doing? Trump was personally directing calls to felon Roger Stone, who was literally spending time with the leadership of 2 militias who led that insurrection violence, who infamously led those stack formations that breached the Capitol doorways despite police protection. I'm going to show just that part briefly again, because this might be some of the most underappreciated bombshell testimony from the momentous Jan 6 hearings.
Is it your understanding that President Trump asked Mark Meadows to speak with Roger Stone and General Flynn on January 5th?
That's correct, that Mr. Meadows did complete both a call to Mr. Stone.
Completed the call to Stone. And what did they discuss? Defendant Meadows knows, after being indicted, he has been.
So I had to play that. Lie, 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 lie. Okay. First of all, I've never talked to Mark Meadows, not on January 5th or any other date. So that's perjury. I've talked to General Flynn. He's also never spoken to Mark Meadows or communicated to him, like me, in any mode whatsoever. And then the rest of that is guilt by association. Did I come in contact with members of the Oath Keepers? Yes. In fact, Oath Keeper Joshua James testified under oath in front of a New York City Police Department disciplinary hearing that Roger Stone knew nothing whatsoever about the Oath Keepers' plans for January 6th. And Enrique Tarrio has said publicly the exact same thing. So there's also an inference there that I spoke to the president on January 5th or 6th. That's a lie, too. I had no communication with the president or any member of the White House staff from January 28th till the following March 24th, when, after my wife's successful cancer treatments, President Trump invited us to visit him in Mar-a-Lago. You can always tell when Ari Melber of MSNBC is lying. His lips are moving. But folks, notice the guilt by association attempt in that particular clip. What do you make of all this, Troy?
Well, Roger, I think the most telling thing about Ari Melber is that here's a guy who's a lawyer. He has a history of knowing, the legal system, and he knows that, and he uses it to his benefit on that show. And the most important thing for people to remember at home, When the media goes out and they say something, there's no standards. They literally can say anything they want. It's exactly why Anthony Fauci used the media to go out and make these horrible predictions that the world was going to end, because he knew if he didn't do it in an official government capacity and just went on the news and said it, there's no way to reprimand him for that. And Ari Melber is a disgusting liar. He is lying through his teeth about the situation on January 6th. And Roger, I have to believe it's because they want to get you away from President Trump. They don't want honest people around President Trump. They want to try to cut him off at the pass and surround him with people like Cassidy Hutchinson there, who flat out lied in Congress. And for all this, Roger, we went through this whole thing. You went through this entire thing with the Jan 6 committee, and they accused you of lying and all this stuff. Where's the punishment for Cassidy Hutchinson? Where is the responsibility for her lies, or Ari Melber, any of these people? It seems to me that the only people who ever get busted for anything, even things they didn't do, are people who disagree with the establishment. And if you agree with the establishment or you serve their benefit, then you can literally do anything you want. I mean, look at Bill Clinton, look at Hillary Clinton, look at Haiti, look at all this that goes on, and yet there's never any responsibility whatsoever on behalf of the people who are helping the establishment. That can't be a coincidence.
Yeah, in this particular case, it's interesting that Cassidy Hutchinson went back and quote unquote corrected her testimony, which is sworn under oath, in a 15-page letter. Now, you can normally correct your testimony. It tends to be grammatical or punctuation, but very rarely is it actually substantive. So clearly she's beginning to sweat a perjury rap. She went on to say, a piece we didn't show you today, that Mark Meadows, the president's chief of staff, was supposed to go to a war room in the Willard Hotel to meet with Mayor Giuliani and others, but that Hutchison, persuaded Meadows not to go, but that Meadows later called Roger Stone and General Flynn for a debriefing on the meeting. Let me say it again. I was never in any war room in the Willard. I am unaware of any war room in the Willard other than reading about it after January 6th. Did I sleep in a regular room at the Willard Hotel? Yes. You see, Stone was seen leaving the Willard. Therefore nothing. It's another example of gross perjury. Again, never had any conversation with Mark Meadows, never was in any war room in the Willard. And by the way, the Washington Post, of all people, confirmed from 3 separate sources that I was uninvolved in the efforts to delay the certification of the Electoral College. Uninvolved, never in your war room, if it even exists. So it's just another example of big media lies.
Well, let's throw this in. Let's throw this in just real quickly, Roger, because it's important. There's been trials. There have been trials for Proud Boys and for Oath Keepers and all these people, and they've had full discovery. They've been able to look at their messages, their emails, their text, whatever, and there has been absolutely no evidence that you coordinated with anybody involving the events of January 6th. None. Zero. And you can't tell me if there was a shred of evidence, even a hint of evidence, that you were involved in that at all, that it wouldn't have been front page news nationwide. It's just disgusting.
Well, it is indeed. I could go back and show you numerous headlines predicting my imminent arrest. But even Reuters reported that the FBI's investigation indicated that neither Alex Jones or I was involved in any way, meaning we had no advance notice of the events at the Capitol. We did not condone any illegal activity at the Capitol, and we certainly did not participate in any. Here is a quick story, and then we're going to go to a commercial break. A majority of Democrats, according to a new poll by Rasmussen, shows that Democrats would back an effort by Democratic lawmakers to refuse to certify the election of President Donald Trump if he is legally and properly and duly elected. In a poll that suggests a Democratic-style January 6th protest, The latest Rasmussen poll shows that 57% of Democrats would support refusing to certify the election results if Trump wins. What's more, 52% of Democrats rejected the recent Supreme Court decision to block states from keeping Trump off of the primary ballots if local officials believed that he had been involved in an insurrection. So this is the Democratic Party. They're prepared to do what they now claim is illegal. Troy, we're going to cut to a commercial break here in a moment. But when we come back, I want you to comment on that. We're also going to talk about the bloodbath at the Republican National Committee yesterday, where a well-needed house cleaning is now underway under the supervision of Chris LaCivita, co-chair of President Donald Trump's campaign. I think one of the most experienced and able strategists and operatives in the party today. So all of that when we come back on the other side. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back in the Stone Zone.
My story started with alcohol, and I had tried going to other treatments, and all I did was think about how I was not going to drink or how I was going to drink one more day and then stop the next day. And Katie had found a treatment. I thought it was kind of hokey.
I could see a couple days into it, it's like the light bulb went on with him.
It's an IV infusion of all natural NAD. It saved my life and my family.
We've been where you sit.
The hardest part of this is making that phone call and just coming and talk to us.
Sounds rolling. All 3 cameras. We're good. Andy, speed.
Is there any regrets that you have in life? I should sit here and say, yeah, I got a lot of regrets. But when I look back on my life and I understand the lives that were lost, I mean, I'm sitting here with you. And I can tell my story.
Former National Security Advisor Lieutenant General Michael Flynn pleaded guilty today for lying to the FBI.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
Really brilliant military career, serving 33 years. Why was he being so elusive?
Mike Flynn told the truth and faced life in prison.
Welcome back. I'm Roger Stone, and yes, you're in the Stone Zone. Troy, what do you make of this new poll in which Democrat voters say that even if Donald Trump wins fair and square, the Congress should not certify the Electoral College vote that would make him president?
Well, Roger, when I first start, and people, I think most people don't know this. I'm 24 years old, so I haven't been doing this for very long. But one of the things I remember paying attention to very closely after the 2016 election was the launch of Tucker Carlson's show on Fox News. And one of the things that Tucker covered extensively, I mean, this was like every show in the beginning, was about Nancy Pelosi's daughter attempting to get people to not, to overturn the election results and to not certify Trump in 2016. Now, I want to get your thoughts on that, Roger, because I know you were probably close to the fire. You probably know more about that than I do. But I think it highlights a trend that the Democrats don't play by the rules when it suits their political favor. The Democrats don't care about rules. They care about winning. And if it means rigging the rules, or if it means ignoring the rules, or going and using their parrots in the media to tell people that the rules are illegitimate and they have to be changed, then that's what they'll do. By hook or crook, the Democrats will gain control of everything that is available to them. And I just, I wanted to get your thoughts on Nancy Pelosi's daughter running the scheme in 2016 to try to keep Trump from being certified president. We forget about that, don't we?
It's really amazing you have these dueling narratives. Once again, Joe Biden, in his State of the Union address, recycling this same lie. He also referred to it as July 6th, but there's no problem with his memory. It's really quite extraordinary, despite the revelations from former Capitol Hill Police Chief Sund, despite the absolute proof that former acting chief of staff at the Defense Department, Kash Patel, has the documents, has the letter in which the Secretary of Defense offered at President Trump's direction to send 10,000 National Guard troops to the Capitol, an offer that was specifically denied by Mayor Bowser and denied by Speaker Pelosi. They continue to pretend that that didn't happen. That did happen. Now we learn that Congressman Adam Kinzinger came armed to the Capitol on January 6th. Now, we know that those misguided souls who breached the Capitol, not a single one of them was armed. Unfortunately, Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed in cold blood by a Capitol Hill police officer when she was menacing no one, shot and killed without warning, by the way. And that particular officer, Michael Berg, he got a commendation and a promotion. They continue to try to push a narrative that is completely fraudulent. Those giant doors to the Capitol that can only be opened electronically from the inside. Who opened them? Why do they continue to try to suppress the facts? In the January 6th committee hearings, they showed videos where you hear a voice track that is allegedly mine, but you never see me saying the words. You see what I think has been a grafted graphic of me walking through an airport with some other guy in which I have a mask over my face. But that exact same audio track was leaked to CNN, but in that version, you just saw a camera wildly bouncing around, showing nothing. The AI is the single most dangerous technology out there. They hired a Hollywood producer to come in and make this made for television drama. We know that they bumped up audio on certain parts and so on. This thing is a contrivance. I don't really understand why the speaker does not appoint a full committee to conduct an investigation into the investigation.
Well, exactly, Roger. And there's people with real world consequences here. And it's very important. President Trump ordered the National Guard in. He actually offered 10,000 National Guard troops, and Nancy Pelosi and Muriel Bowser turned him down. And, they turned him down because they obviously wanted chaos. And I think that speaks to the ultimate goal of this day, Roger. They wanted chaos. And I've always said this. It's very important to point out. The protesters did not enter the building through those doors that you described that had to be locked and unlocked from the inside. The protesters did not enter those doors until the people that they supported were giving arguments to send these numbers and these vote totals back to the states. They didn't break in during the certification. It wasn't until after the protest that the certification was a sure thing, you could call it. They broke in during what they were technically supposed to be supporting. So that doesn't make any sense. Why would they break into a hearing based on the things that they've been arguing for? Well, they were let in. They were let in through the doors, and they were let in by the exact people who denied Trump's offer of 10,000 National Guard troops because they knew what they were doing. They wanted a political spectacle that they could use to, one, arrest their political opponents across the country, which they've been doing, and two, build a false narrative to stop Trump from ever taking office again. And I think the only thing that's failed in that, Rogers, there's people like you, there's people like General Flynn, there's people like Alex Jones, there's people like me, there's people out there that will continue to speak the truth no matter how many things they throw our way. And as we get closer to the election, Roger, I think that desperation that we saw on January 6th, because really that's what it was. It was desperation by the establishment to create something that wasn't real. They wanted to create an image of something that wasn't real that they could use to attack their political opponents. Because of that, and because of the desperation showed in that, the desperation is only going to get worse heading into 2024. At least that's what I think.
Well, it also candidly shows you the extraordinary power when the Democrat cabal teams up with the mainstream media and their near monopoly in many areas of communications. You cannot underestimate the impact of what Elon Musk has done by lifting the veil and showing the entire world the level of cancellation, the level of censorship, the level of silencing anyone who has a narrative that is contrary to the official narrative. Here's the amazing thing about the left. It doesn't matter how much their crap is debunked, disproved, discredited. If you just wait a few weeks, they'll be right back to recycle it yet again. We're right back to the Russians colluded with Donald Trump to win the 2016 election. No, he didn't. And people like Adam Schiff and Andrew Weissman, they fall back on the weakest possible arguments, all of which have been disproven. But they will continue to insist that they are right. Okay, moving along, we have a few more minutes here. Very good news out of the Republican National Committee. Now, for many years, the Republican National Committee was a backwater when it came to a presidential campaign. The party, by law, can perform certain functions in coordination with the presidential campaign that can only be done by the party. But in truth, the outgoing chairwoman, Ronna Romney McDaniel, well, she's a historical figure. She's the only chairperson of the party since 1861 to preside over a presidential loss and keep her job. And it became very clear in the last election that the Republican National Committee was not an effective election fighting entity. They raised hundreds of millions of dollars in the name of election integrity, but they didn't do anything about election integrity. Yesterday, according to Politico, the new leadership under Chairman Whatley and co-chairman Lara Trump and the sure hand of Chris LaCivita of the Trump campaign laid off 60 RNC staffers who worked across various communications and data departments. I'm also told that a number of very rich vendor contracts are expected to be cut. This is really, really good news. Troy, your thoughts?
Well, Roger, there was obviously a shakeup needed at the Republican Party, and I think what I would like to see is a complete change in the way this party is presented, and it needs to be moved away from the country club Republicans. It needs to be moved away from people who really are not in touch with the regular Americans out there, and it needs to become the party of the working man, because really, the Democrat Party has become the party of woke. They've become the party of LGBTQ and abortion and all things that Americans really don't have the time to worry about right now, because most of them are struggling to pay for things like groceries and gas, and their economic situation has gotten so bad. The Republicans can be the party that comes in and says, are you tired of all the Democrat stuff? Are you tired of the Mitt Romneys, the John McCains? Then let's make a new way forward. I think you do that by weeding out a lot of the old people. It's something that's needed when you take over an organization. I have experience in that too. You got to clean house. You got to get rid of people who have past allegiances and who are not aligned with where the thing needs to go. I would like to see more regular Americans employed by the RNC. I'd like to see them make a push to modernize this party and to make it so it is marketable to all Americans who are looking around right now saying, hey, there's not really any political solutions being proposed by either party that are going to benefit me in the end. We need to be the party that comes out and gives people a platform and a plan. And I think really rooted in all of this is Trump's success, and Trump's appeal is really that. So this takeover, Roger, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, but I think it makes it officially the party of Trump, and it makes it officially a party that is moving on from the days of the country club Republican.
Well, unfortunately, Troy, we're out of time, so we're going to have to pick this discussion up tomorrow. I want to remind folks that Kash Patel, the former national security staffer, former chief counsel to the House Intelligence Committee, former acting chief of staff for the Defense Department, is going to join us right here in the Stone Zone. Until tomorrow, I'm Roger Stone. On behalf of my co-host Troy Smith and myself, I say yet again, God bless you, Godspeed, and we'll see you tomorrow.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?